Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ancient Coin Hour, episode 7. In this episode, we're going to continue down our pathway of interviewing Zach Beasley, the director of Ancients at Heritage Auctions, one of the world's largest auction houses for numismatics. In addition to that, our good buddy, and Grammy-winning friend Josh is going to join us, and he's going to introduce a coin of the week for him and what's passed across his desk. And then I also have one as well. How are you doing today, Josh? Been a few days since we've talked.
So yeah, we're having a great Sunday, and I'm enjoying just.
What do you do on a fine Sunday afternoon?
On a fine Sunday afternoon, I mean, we're look, it's a fine afternoon, and we're talking about coins, so why not have a glass of wine and enjoy it? So I'm enjoying this awesome bottle from Bellinger Estates.
Is that the
awesome
official
guy and
official coin?
He is the official winery of
that is right.
Ancient Coins.
Yes, and delicious wine.
He is an ancient coin lover and fan, and an amazing guy. And he sent us some wine, and it's delicious. And so we're just enjoying that this afternoon.
Yeah, and keep watching. We love having you as a member. I love the feedback you give us, and we're so proud to have you as a sponsor. We've been talking for years now, and I'm so glad that we have a partnership. So make sure you check out Bellinger Wines online, and make sure you order some. It's delicious and a perfect way to round out a discussion about ancient coins. So Josh, absolutely. Besides sipping on a fine wine on a Sunday, anything else exciting or special going on?
Oh, this week, honestly, nothing super exciting, special, except for this amazing coin that came across my desk. That I'm really kind of excited to share about.
Well, after you, my friend, go ahead.
All right. I'd love to share this one. So today we're going to share a coin and explore the city of Croton. So throughout its history, it comes from the region of Bruttium, and significant events helped shape Italy's history through this region. The city itself was founded by Achaean settlers around 710 BC. The philosopher Pythagoras established himself there in about 530, forming a society of 300 disciples who were sympathetic toward aristocratic government. Quickly gaining power, Croton reached its zenith after destroying Sybaris in 510 BC. But soon after, internal conflicts and external threats weakened its power. Despite these challenges, Croton became the head of the League of the Achaean Cities in the late 5th century, leading to the resistance against Dionysius I of Syracuse. Situated in southern Italy, it became one of the most important cities in Mange Graecia. Now, let's talk about the Croton coinage. It began around 530 BC. The coinage prominently features a tripod, which is a symbol connected to Apollo and the Delphic oracle. Croton's relationship with the Oracle of Delphi is another fascinating aspect. The city's founding was guided by the oracle, providing divine legitimacy through Apollo's guidance. This connection is reflected in the strong presence of Apollo-related symbols on coins. The city maintained a cult of Apollo, making offerings and seeking guidance in civic matters. Other symbols on Croton coins include a crab and a heron, which appear very frequently. And then occasionally you see a dolphin and a lyre. A lyre is also associated with Apollo. There is one series of coins featuring a flying eagle, and another series with a Corinthian helmet. These symbols were not just decorative, but indicate the city's dominance over its neighbors. For instance, the helmet symbol is closely associated with the city Temesa. Coins with dual city types, like those showing Croton with Temesa, are particularly interesting. While they might suggest an alliance, they actually indicate Croton's dominance. These coins were likely produced in subsidiary mints within Croton's controlled territories, showcasing its influence. After Croton's victory over Sybaris, the city became the leading coin producer in the region during the first half of the 5th century. This period marked Croton's response to its newfound power and position. Unlike other cities like Metapontum and Sybaris, which produced smaller denominations, Croton's early coinage consisted almost entirely of staters. Speaking of Sybaris, its destruction in 510 BC by Croton had significant impact on southern Italian coinage. Before this event, the four Achaean cities, Sybaris, Croton, Caulonia, and Metapontum, shared a common coinage technique known as the incus technique. This technique involved creating a relief design on the obverse and repeating it in taglio on the reverse. Its sophisticated method was likely established by either Sybaris or Metapontum and adopted by other cities. The coins produced using this incus technique were not only precise and aesthetically pleasing, but also unique to the region. The destruction of Sybaris led to changes in this unified approach to coinage, as the city's significant influence was removed. Now let's focus on an aspect of the Crotonian coin that I'm sharing in this episode. The coin dates from around 480 to 430 BC and is considered the dumpy type reverse incus technique rather than the earlier pre-destruction of Sybaris technique of types, I should say, of the late 6th century. This, however, is a very rare example which bears the letters TE on the obverse and reverse. These letters are found on the obverse of tripod-type earlier staters with Corinthian helms and are believed to signify the city of Temesa. Temesa was important to Croton due to its rich copper mines. These mines provided a resource for the production of bronze and other metal goods, contributing to Croton's economy, showing a greater influence over the region. So one more thing I'd like to recommend is 2 other sources for those who are interested in studying these types of coins that come from Mange Graecia any kind of further. The first book I'd like to recommend actually is Archaic and Classical Greek Coins by Colin Cray. This book provides a comprehensive overview of Greek coinage and its history during these periods and other periods in Greek history. The other book I'd like to recommend on these is Historia Numorum Italy. This is by N.K. Rutter. It's a newer book published, I believe, in 2001. It was published by the British Museum. It's an invaluable resource for understanding the numismatic history of Italy and includes the coinage of Croton among all its neighbors, going up and down the boot. And so that's my coin for this week, this rare Croton coin. I just think it's really neat. You see these coins very often with the heron and also with a crab on it. Usually they can be had a few $100, but this particular one is super rare. I think there's only 3 or 4 auction records that I know of that actually have this type. And of those records, 2 or 3 of them, I think, are the same coin. So it's a rare type, and just happy to share it with you this
for
week.
Everybody's knowledge, Mange Graecia is Greater Greece, right? Or the essentially portions of the boot of Italy, the bottom portion. So I think
it's basically the heel and the toe.
And that's been
up to the Latins, up to up to Rome,
right.
essentially.
That's right.
South of Rome.
Right. So a lot of people don't think of Greater Greece being a part of Italy, but for a period of time, and even when the Byzantines controlled after Justinian, they really kind of controlled the same neighborhood the Eastern Romans did as the Greeks did in that time period. It's just a very interesting part of Italy's history that maybe is not well known. So thank you, Josh. And why don't you sit back and enjoy your glass of that fine Bellinger Estates wine. And I will be covering in a follow-up to my presentation last week where I discussed a coin of Augustus and how important it was really in the history of the imperatorial Rome or the transition from republic to empire. And so I was like, you know what? I have so much knowledge here. I feel like, or at least, reference points where I can point out knowledge to. And I felt like I was like, well, let's continue down this pathway a little bit. And so a lot of the coinage of that time period is a lot of different types. Very interesting, lots of stories because there's a lot going on politically. And the one that I want to bring to your attention specifically is Gaius Antius Restio denarius coin. It's from 47 BC. And you look at this coin and you say to yourself, okay, so there's a guy kind of a bit of a clean top and older gentleman. What does that mean? How is that important? Well, it turns out that in the history of coinage, this is actually kind of important. This is a step into what I would consider modern coinage, or what we have today. So I'll fill you guys in as we're going. But this coin, while not obviously very important, it doesn't have Alexander the Great's face on it or anything like that. But it's sneaky important to history, and I'll explain why. So this coin was minted in 47 BC. Gaius was a minter. That was a position, for a long period of time. I think there was between 2 and 4 given the yearly need. So then there's been a long line of people that have been, in charge of coinage that are very important, whether it's, Cato or whether it's Brutus, any one of those guys, very important to history. And so this is a important position. And often at this point, 47 BC is after Julius Caesar returned to Rome, crossed the Rubicon, and started making his way through fighting Pompey and the Republicans to try and settle Rome and the Civil War, and by his design. And so Restio is one of Julius Caesar's guys. He's a selected guy by Julius Caesar. And so he is minting a coin in celebration of his father. And his father is also Gaius Antius Restio. His father, who is pictured on the coin, was a tribune of the plebs in, I think, 69 BC. And he was important because he wanted limits or limitations on how much spending could be done on your campaign in Rome to be afforded a position. And you could routinely throughout history, you can look at people that have spent or invested tons of money. Julius Caesar notoriously broke himself and then went into huge debt trying to get his position as Pontifex Maximus, and then consul. So he spent tons of money driving himself into debt so deep that he could barely see his way out. But he decided to do that because he thought that was necessary in order for him to become a wealthy, powerful man. So anyway, that being said, so we have a image of Restio on the reverse or on the obverse, and then we have Hercules with a club and with a lion skin on his shoulder, and a trophy in his other hand, and probably missing his pants somewhere. But anyway, naked reverse. But that's Hercules on the reverse. So you say to yourself, Dean, why? He's celebrating his father. He put his father on the coinage, and well, one of the things we've consistently talked about with this time period and before is that Rome was very anti-king. Rome was very anti-authoritarian. They had positions called dictatorships or dictators that they would often, in a time of need, they would give somebody a position, but then it would be returned. So there was never a long period of time where one person was in control of government. And they were very anti the possibility of returning to kingship. Over time, as coins have been minted, in Rome, the obverse always represents a god, whether it's tied in directly to what's going on the street, or whether it's related to the family of the minter who's creating the coin. There is no obvious, current or contemporary images of human beings on these coins. And as we get into the 80s and the 70s and the 60s BC, as we're moving kind of in the direction of from republic to empire, then some of the norms, the social norms that people were expecting or used to, started to going away. And one of those norms was to have a god in the obverse, and not a human living like the Greeks did. They had their king. Rome is very distinct. They don't have a king. It's a republic. And so earlier in the 50s, the late 50s, mid 50s, we start seeing pictures of people that existed. So Brutus is, he had a series of coins in the 50s, 54 BC, where one of his ancestors, great ancestors, Brutus, who is famous for unseating and, I guess, in the end, murdering the last king of Rome. And so this was a throwback to his ancestor who wanted a republic and not a authoritarian government. And so that was a kind of a throwback, a reminder that Rome is a republic, not a kingship. But as time continues on, now there are people that kind of start appearing on these coins that aren't gods. They are kind of like Brutus, a somebody that you reach back into history, and it's somebody that's relevant or important. And so the conversation is changing. Restio, in this instance, puts a recently deceased tribune on the pleb on the coins. So this guy is not even old enough, to be an ancestor. This guy was the last generation. This guy was 20 years ago when he served as tribune of the plebs. So now we're serious. And it's often thought that Julius Caesar helped kind of push this along, because I think Caesar had an idea that his coin, as he moves further on, would have his image on it. And so this is another kind of loosening a social norm that everybody in the Roman Republic was used to. And now we're kind of breaking those norms. And this coin, while on its surface seems pretty normal, is one of those barrier breakers to becoming an empire. And so one of the coolest parts of Roman coins is that it has so much emphasis or so much kind of involvement in the history of the transition from the republic to empire that it can be seen. It can be seen. This is a point in time where the republic is changing. So within the next 3 years, we go from basically a republic with a dictator to a dictator in perpetuity, or for 10 years, and then a dictator in perpetuity. So now we're in the king neighborhood. Now we're in the emperor neighborhood. And what does Julius Caesar do? He wants to acknowledge that he is the sole ruler of Rome. And he puts his face, a living man, on a coin. And what this does is not only alienate all of the kind of the conservatives, the opposing party to his populism, but also alienates traditions that have gone on forever. And he puts his face on this coin, and it says dictator in perpetuity across it. And so now he is telling you that he's in charge. And a lot of people believe that because this is a early form of propaganda, this is a way of the government communicating other than a caller, that he's letting you know that this transition is happening. And people reacted negatively. And there are articles and papers that are written about how the coinage with Julius Caesar's face on them is what killed him. That Brutus and the Republicans took such great offense to the fact that there's a face of a human being that's living that now kind of brings him into that God neighborhood, right? Julius Caesar's not only the dictator, but he's putting his face where God's used to be. So now we're starting to get real upsetting to the Republicans, the conservatives. And so the history kind of changes, right? And so they murder Julius Caesar. And now we go through a period of civil war where people's faces start appearing. There's Augustus's face. There's Brutus's face. There's Mark Antony's face. And it's not that uncommon anymore. It's frequent. And then Augustus, when he takes charge, that's it. That's the way it's going to be moving forward in forever. And honestly, King George III, right? The newest king, is it George? What is George? Sir Charles III. Sorry about that. I've been watching Bridgerton, and it's King George III. Don't tell anybody. But anyway, so his face and legends around is exactly the same thing. 2,000 years later. What an interesting part of numismatics. There's a kind of an ordinary coin that's as important in history as, I don't know, uh, concrete, or, it's a big piece of history. And so you can see that and look at it and tell this fantastic story. It's just an amazing coin
That's
to
what's
me.
so great about studying and collecting coins from this time period, this transitional period.
Yeah.
It is so fascinating. The coins that come out of there they're the best. Honestly, there's some of the most, not the best. There's some of the most exciting stories that are behind these coins.
Every
historically.
One of them. That's why I started there, because it was like it was just like turning a page of the book. You can pick up a little bit more from each one of these and what they were trying to present and represent.
Very action packed.
Yep. Yeah, about as fast as 5 years as, or whatever. I mean, 5 years that you can imagine. I imagine that people's heads were spinning with how fast things were changing. But anyway, so that is my coin of the week. I'm going to see. Maybe
Amazing.
I'll continue down a little. There's a few more of these that I don't have anymore, but there's a few more of these that are relatively inexpensive. Restio's denarius can go from 400 to 1,000. The perfect one, but it's not a very expensive denarius comparatively. A portrait of Julius Caesar is anymore. It's more like 7,500 to 10,000 to 20,000. So it's gone up. But some of these important coins in history that don't have the elephant on it or don't have Caesar's face on it, you can still get. And that's what's so powerful about this hobby. So
Amazing.
With that being said, we are going to transition now into the incredible part 2 of our interview with Zach Beasley, who is the Director of Ancients at Heritage. Please make sure that you try to listen and learn a little bit. We're going to learn a little bit about his side hobby here too. But then also, after you're done, make sure you like and subscribe, follow. We continue to do this. We'll continue to introduce people that we think you should get to know and share just our passion for it. So with that being said, Josh, do you want to turn it over to Zach?
I was also actually kind of wondering if you can tell me a little bit more about your experience and how you ended up at Heritage.
Oh, okay.
From Beast
Not where I thought you were going with that. I thought you were going to say, how many times you performed Carmina Burana? And I thought we were going to start comparing that. Like, okay.
Well, we could go there too. I mean, I was just curious how you ended up at Heritage after having your own business for so long.
Fair. So Steve Ivey called me in 2008, when they were looking to have somebody come to Dallas and really focus on heading up the Ancients department. This was before Dave Michaels got hired out in Beverly Hills. At the time, my grandparents were not doing well. They were in their 90s at that point. And I was still married at that time as well. And my wife had a good job. So I was like, okay, well, this timing isn't going to work because it's not a remote position. It's, you got to be at the Dallas headquarters. That's where all the catalog production is, all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm going to have to pass on this. So, time goes on, whatever. I stay in contact with Steve. Continued being a client at Heritage. I was buying obsolete currency, in U.S. stuff, along with ancients here and there, some world coins. Staying in contact with Dave Michaels and, how's it going, that kind of stuff. Well, it was starting to get to the point where they were looking for someone again because they just didn't have the capacity to keep up with the cataloging. So, okay, that's fine. And in 2015, I moved to Florida. My best friend was getting out of the Air Force, so he was looking to start a business, and he didn't know what to do. He's just like, well, you've got your own business. You're portable. Why don't you come down here and help me start something? I'm just like, yeah, all right, fine. let's do that. So I went down there, helped him build a food truck, and did that with him for a little while I was doing coins. Those were some long days. Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
So yeah, I'd get up in the morning and
yeah.
prep, and at night we'd be cleaning and prepping and stuff like that. And during the day he'd be out doing the food truck. I'd be at home doing my coin business. At the same time, I was also the customer service manager for VCoins. I did that for 4 years. So I was managing, setting up all the stores,
Oh, wow.
getting inventory, working clients, all that kind of stuff. So I actually don't know if I slept for those 4 years. Now that I think about it,
it sounds like it. Yeah,
kind of crazy. So then in 2017. I ran into Sam Spiegel at it was still CICF back then. It wasn't Central States yet. So we were talking at the show, and he's just like, we really could use somebody in Dallas. And I said, okay, you know what? Sure. Food truck's up and running. Everything's fine. I can make another hop. At that point, I was 49 years old. So I decided, steady income and insurance. This is it. This
that's helpful.
is the thing. I'm going to do this. Yeah.
That's understandable. Understandable.
So,
and then
So
Chris here in Doc called me up, and he's just like, so let's have an interview. I was like, okay. He goes, all right. So, and he starts to talk to me about the website. I'm like, I've been a client for 15 years. Like, oh, why don't you just, start? I said, okay, I'll be there next week.
That's
wow,
funny.
That's great. That's great.
He's a gem, absolute gem.
That is really great.
Sam and Chris, both excellent people.
So what would you say is Heritage's competitive advantage in the marketplace for Ancients? What do you think that Heritage does best?
That's a great question. I would say that our global reach is really our strength. Our website, the way that we're able to get into different markets and our cross-category marketing, that's really huge. We've got a lot of people. Okay, so for example, I'm not going to name names or anything. I have a sports client. He's big into sports. He's got all sorts of, a huge sports collection. About 15, 20 years ago, they also had a small Ancients collection. It was all Sicilian coins, really pretty stuff, including several decadrams. But they had sold all of it, and now thinking about, hey, I really liked that stuff. Let's talk about getting back into that. Well, lo and behold, they ended up buying one of the decadrams out of the sale on Wednesday. So, yeah, yeah.
Really?
So,
great.
We've got a lot of reach that a lot of other companies really can't get into, simply because they just don't handle the kind of stuff that we do. Like Sotheby's used to sell coins. We drove them out of that market. Well, we can't. We're not going to sell $300 million Da Vinci's. That's going to go to Sotheby's or Christie's. But know your market strength. So we do coins pretty well. So.
Yeah.
I tell you, one of the things I love that Heritage has done in the last couple years with some of their high profile auctions is the technology that you've used in your photography with the movable images, where you can see just the photos at different light angles and how it hits the surfaces. I really have to say that's really primo. I love it. I love the
We've
design.
got some really good folks in the photography department, and as all Ancients collectors know, some coins just don't like to be photographed, and sometimes you just can't do anything about it. Like, for example, in the Central States auction that we just had, there was a really nice collection of very large Republican Oz Graves. There was a Tressus, there was a those, and the photos, they're impossible.
So hard to photograph.
The surfaces are uneven, the colors, the mottled toning, it's just impossible.
Yeah.
The ability to pick that up on a camera is,
no kidding.
so impossible.
So
It is.
Because they look incredible.
They were, and they're so beefy. So you look on the screen and you really don't understand the scale of it. Even when you're looking at it and you're like, okay, 60 millimeters, 258 grams. What is that? And then you put it in your hand and you're like, that's a weapon. That's what that is.
I'm sure it was used as such several times, at least.
So for that kind of stuff, what I'll do is I'll contact the specialists that I know and say, hey, we've got this really great material coming up that is right in your wheelhouse. You might want to consider either going to lot viewing at the show or come to the office. And some of those folks did. And then, I could sit there and talk with them. Obviously I can only give a certain amount of information about, consignments as they come in. But it gives me the opportunity, and I love that so many clients take advantage of actually coming to our office and doing lot viewing, and then get to meet people and really talk with them. And I love that about shows too. I can't make all the shows. I'm just too busy. But we're trying really hard to have Ancients representation at as many shows as we can. So we've started going to some of the shows in Mexico. We're going to a conference in Rio at the end of the year. We're going back to Long Beach. We've had people at Baltimore again. So, we're really trying to get out there so that if, you're not near an office, at least you still can have FaceTime with us. Like Roxana from our, and she's fabulous. Roxana Uscali from our Chicago office. She's going up to the Torex show. So I've already started contacting some of our Toronto clients, and they're scheduling to meet with her up there. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Great.
Are you going to any? Is there an upcoming show that we can see you
Chicago
at
in August? So.
We will too.
Brilliant.
As we will.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a dinner opportunity.
And that's right. And I think we're going to try to set up a podcast booth in that area. So we may ask you a few questions while you're around.
Sure, absolutely.
So you're going to be at Central States and then, or at, what's it called? The World's Fair of Money?
I'm pretty sure we're one of the sponsor auctioneers again. So, yeah.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And then New York again? Maybe we'll run into each other at the Met again.
I loved that. That was such a surprise.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. We definitely need to go out to dinner. We have not done a good job. Every time I go, I go to these shows, it's like I see all these people and I want to, like, I'm in my head. I want to play. Okay, I got to spend some time with him. And then it goes by so fast. You miss. And last time in New York, I missed you a little bit. But I tell you what, for those of you who have not had dealings with Heritage or Zach, I will tell you, for a big organization or somebody that moves as much material as they do, they definitely make you feel like you're very important. So I have had very good conversations. I'm a very kind of like panicky consigner. So I worry about stuff and I actually read the descriptions to make sure that, and Zach is very patient and very understanding and a great customer service representative. So I've had nothing but great experiences with him. And then the other thing is, if you see him at a show, make sure you say hi, because he's great to talk to.
Absolutely.
I actually, honestly, I love it when I get in a consignment and the client is very particular about their coins, because I know that they're looking, and typically they'll follow up with, oh, hey, you don't have a pedigree on this. I have that. Let me get it to you. And then I'll go, be able to go in and add that. So, yeah, I love it when I get, material from clients that really have a passion for what they collected. And then I want that to come through.
So I have
on my camera. Yeah.
I have to ask, out of all of the years that you've been at Heritage, do you have one favorite coin, favorite consignment that you've brought in so far in your experience? Is there one that just really stands out?
Consignment, yes. That's actually, I don't want to make any of my consigners unhappy that I didn't pick them, but I have a great story. I have an absolutely great story. So I guess that this would be my favorite consignment story simply because of how it went. We have this thing called Shopbox. So when you go on to ha.com and you want to do an inquiry, you say, I've got a coin, you know, I want information about it. I'm looking to sell it, whatever. So that'll go to, you can do it a number of different ways. But to get to our department, it's either ancient coins at ha.com or world coins at ha.com. And then that will go into what we call our shop box inbox. And then those will get separated out into our individual inboxes, to address. So this was, we were still in our old building downtown. So this was probably 4 years ago now. I got a Shopbox inquiry that said, I have a collection of about 50 world gold coins. I'm like, okay. And the pictures, because you can only attach six pictures. So the person attached obverse and reverse pictures of 3 coins. One was 1915 Austrian ducat, what was it? It was Mexico, 2.5 pesos, and like a 20 francs, some generic date. So I was like, okay, well, this is bullion,
stuff.
stuff, and I wrote back to the client because we do that. We'll use automated replies for some of the stuff if it's something that we really don't need to engage the person because it's like 3 wheat pennies or whatever it is. It's like, okay, well, this is just go out and spend those or keep them or give them to your kids, whatever. So, but for this one, it's just like, okay, well, you've got 50 coins, so there is value there, but it's going to be essentially bullion. So it's not something that we're going to put in an auction because after fees, you're going to get less than melt. Nobody wants that. We don't want that. So typically, when that kind of scenario happens, we'll direct them to just a local dealer, or we'll make a purchase order or purchase offer ourselves. We're like, okay, we'll pay you 98% of spot for this, whatever. Well, this person was in Fort Worth, so at the time we were downtown Dallas, so it was 35-minute drive over to their house because I had their address. So, but that's getting a little bit ahead of it. So I wrote to the person and said, okay, you've got, you said 50 coins or so. Can you send me some pictures of the other ones? And I explained that basically what you've got so far is just the gold bullion price. So they send me some pictures, and it's more of the same kind of stuff. Some more 20 francs, those sorts of things. And I said, okay, well, are all of the coins this kind of stuff, or are there some that stand out that are different? And they're like, okay, well, let me get you another quick, couple of pictures. Like, okay, that's fine. So another one was just another generic world coin or whatever it was, and then the next one was an Italian double doppia. I'm like, okay, so bullion, 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 $15,000 coin. Like, no, this doesn't make any sense. So,
what's going on here?
Okay, that's now we're talking about something that's like this stands out, and they're like, well, there might be a couple more kind of like that. I'm like, okay, let me talk to my manager. Let me just come over because we're running around in circles right now. So I talked to Sam. I'm just like, Sam, I need to, go over to Fort Worth. It's some gold. There's, one good coin. If we've got the one good coin for platinum session, great. That's still a really pretty coin. Our minimum overall consignment value is $5,000. Because there's a lot of processing costs with, shipping, photography, cataloging, all that kind of stuff. So, but that one coin, by itself qualified for a consignment. He's just like, well, I'd really, if you're going to be out of the office and go drive over there, I'd like it to be, at least worth 50,000 to go, take the time to go do that. I was like, I think it might be worth that. And he's like, all right, fine. It's not that far. Go knock yourself out. So I called the client up and was like, all right, when would you like to get together? I'm going to come over and, we'll go over this. I'll bring a consignment agreement with you. We'll write it up and that kind of stuff. And they're like, well, it might be more like 100 coins. Okay, well, that's better, actually. I said, that's fine. And they're all gold. Oh, yeah, they're all gold. Okay, great. When do you want to get together? Okay, well, let's get together tomorrow. Fine. So I call them up the next morning. Are we still on? I'm going to be coming over. Is this your address? Just want to confirm. Yeah. It might be 150 coins. Okay, this is going to take a little longer. Fine. I'll come over there. I'll bring, the paperwork and that kind of stuff. Okay, great. So I get there and they've got coins in envelopes and they were all gold. And they were trying to write down what they could read on them. But, some of them were, late Renaissance, this other kind of stuff. So I get there and there's also a mailbox, the totes that, you can get mail in. And it's full of stuff. I'm like, well, what's that? They're like, well, that's full of coins too. I'm like, okay. And there's books and all sorts of things. I'm like, can we please just actually tell me what it is that you have? And the client was just like, well, I didn't want to say that I had all this stuff because you might get scared off and not come over. And then I'm just stuck with all of it. No, that's not how we work. Like, I don't care how much it is. Just let me know what the scope is so I can plan out for this.
Yeah.
Oh, long story was that the person inherited all of the stuff from their grandfather who emigrated from Switzerland back in the early 20th century, like maybe 1920 or so, and just bought all this stuff back then for probably not all that much, but some really cool gold stuff.
Right.
So I'm starting to look through these things, and there's Swiss 10 ducats, and also in 4 ducats with the bears on them.
Oh,
I'm just like, and I'm looking at this, I'm going, okay, let me understand what I'm looking at right now. So I said, okay, this is going to take a while to write all this up because now I'm looking at what was in the box was just all miners, silver and copper miners, all sorts of Swiss stuff, but still very saleable things. 10 bats, 20 bats, all that kind of stuff. But we're talking thousands of coins now. I said, all right, I'll write up a consignment agreement for you. I said, we'll make the insurance value $150,000, so it'll cover all this because I can't. It's going to take me days to go through this. So they were like, you know what? That's fine. Great. Go ahead and do that, and then let me know what's up. So I put everything in my car, go back to the office. Luckily, I had Pelican cases and stuff like that, so at least it was, all secure and things like that. Plus, it's all insured as soon as we pick it up. I get back to the office, and I put the stuff on what was our conference table at the time. And Chris walks out of his office, and Warren walks out of his office, and I was actually back in my office at that point. And so I had the paperwork with me, so it was just coins that were sitting there because I hadn't given them to Sally yet to check in and put the consignor information, all that kind of stuff on it. And so they start digging through it. They're like, "Whose is this?" And then Sam comes out of his office, and now all of them are just looking at this like, "This is great stuff." I'm just like, "I know. I just went and picked this up. That was the lead that I got over in Fort Worth." And Warren's looking at this, is like, "What insurance value did you put on this?" And I said, $150 to start because I literally haven't even opened anything and started looking at it yet. And he's pulling out coins. He goes, "Well, this coin's like $50,000 and this coin's $25,000. I'm like, "All right, great. That's great."
Jeez.
So I get back to my office and I call a client. I said, "Okay, I'm back in the office. We've got your stuff. We're starting to work through it." I said, "So, but I've got some bad news." And they're like, "Oh, is it not worth all that much?" And I said, "No, actually, I need to change our consignment agreement and increase the insurance value to $350,000, to cover this stuff. And they're like, oh, well, that sounds good. I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. So, I send over the consignment agreement and stuff like that. And so the person had 5 kids, and this was the money was going to go to the kids. So the kids were very excited about being able to watch the auctions. We had to send everything out to grading. Some of the stuff needed to be conserved. We sold a lot of the miners in, big bulk lots and that kind of stuff. So everybody was just very excited about all this Swiss material that we had at the time. And so after all was said and done, it was $1.2 million for the whole collection. Yeah, and they were hoping to get like $50,000 for all of it. So yeah, all the kids got great Christmas presents.
Happy.
Yeah,
that's right.
Was that a nervous car ride back? Like, did it go from I'm just picking up a handful of coins to oh my god, I have a lot of money in my
not really, because at the time I still didn't know what it was. I'm as a director, I can go and pick up $500,000 of stuff by myself. After that point, I need security detail to accompany me. But I had everything locked in Pelican cases. Everything was fine. But I didn't really think anything of it. No,
you had no idea.
And and the client didn't either, and they were just super, super happy about the entire thing. So that was probably my favorite consignment, because every time I talked to them, it was nothing but more good news.
Well, I do have one more statement question for you, and then I'll release you. But the one thing that I do know that Zach is a huge proponent of, and I really think that maybe sometimes coin collectors get pigeonholed into kind of a let's say nerdy, kind of not jock kind of mentality. But Mr. Beasley is, a very talented hockey player. He represents it just about all the time.
That's actually my jersey.
And so we have a full-blooded ancient coin collector jock that we have here. So it does apply to everybody. And I was wondering if you could give us a little bit of background into your hockky you love for your
sure,
passion
I could do
for
that. I always loved sports. Loved playing all sorts of different things growing up. My one regret is that I did not play football in high school. That was a bummer. But I played rugby very briefly in college. Cracked my head open. Not playing rugby. Oddly enough, it was on a bus ride. So I was just like, you know what? This is probably not a good idea.
Rough bus ride.
But yeah, I played. I was a rabid tennis player. Played a lot of golf. But then, oddly enough, and I'm from Wisconsin. You would think that I would have been exposed to hockey,
playing
hockey.
I
mean, obviously, everybody in Wisconsin ice skates. It's what we do in winter. And
drink
Guinness. So we do drink a lot. This is true. And cheese. We've got beer and cheese.
And cheese.
But when my buddy that I mentioned earlier from Florida, he ended up selling the food truck and moving to Texas because when he was in Air Force, he played hockey all the time. He was stationed at Grand Forks Air Force Base in North Dakota. So he used to play with some of the Sioux players and that kind of stuff. So there are, and this is the strangest thing to say, where we live, we're within 45 minutes of 11 hockey rinks, nice hockey rinks too, and in Dallas, in
Dallas?
the DFW area. Yep. Plus private rinks.
No idea.
There's the Allen Community Center. There's the NITEC Sports Arena. There's the Arlington Mall rink, and then there's 7 of them that are owned by the Dallas Stars. So I mean, there's rinks everywhere, and there's so much hockey here. It's ridiculous. So I play 5 nights a week,
I can't believe that.
and at different rinks. On Tuesday, I play in Arlington. Tomorrow, I'll be at Euless. Sunday is over at Farmers Branch. So, yeah, it's a really good time.
That's
And I
amazing.
didn't learn to play until 3 years ago, and now I'm just
Wow,
obsessed
of all
with it.
the
I know, right?
sports.
I just turned 56. You
Is
would
it?
think, oh, okay.
You just picked up hockey 3 years ago? That's amazing.
Well, how does the? I mean, is it full
No.
checking and stuff?
No, it is not.
Oh, I
That's
got it.
good.
I was like, how do you get up at 56
Oh,
and the next morning and feel okay?
Sometimes it happens. It's not supposed to. I mean, it's not no contact, but it is no checking. Because I mean, we are a bunch of
I gotcha.
old ass adults. I mean, you can't just go up and just lay somebody out and just be like, sorry, dude, it's on you. They frown upon that. A good poke check though. When I'm goalie and I send somebody flying, I'm just like, you got too close. That's the way it goes. You're gonna feel that.
That's
right. Did you know that Josh got married in Racine, Wisconsin? 3 weekends ago.
In Madison.
Madison. Madison is a great town.
I love the city. It's
is that where you live now?
Yeah, it is.
No. We were visiting. She was on a gig there.
Fantastic.
So she was singing with the Madison Symphony.
Fabulous.
Yeah. She did the Verdi Requiem.
Oh, I
with the
love
Madison
the Verdi
Symphony.
Requiem. That is such a good piece.
Yeah, it's a great piece.
Okay, Geek Time coming out again. Oh yeah.
All right, go ahead.
That's right.
Long-time listeners probably are well aware of Josh's, repertoire. I was
Grammy-winning.
There you go.
Recording artist.
Love it.
Josh Benevento.
I knew you had to throw that in there somewhere.
Delicious. I love it. Absolutely love it. Oh yeah, that's another thing we have in common. I was with the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra chorus for 8 years. Did stuff with Chicago Symphony,
Awesome.
The Hondelin, Haydn, early music ensemble. All sorts of different stuff. So yeah, good time.
Great. Yeah.
Well, when you're in the area again, Josh plays what's it called at the Lyric. I think coming up here soon, so it'd be worth your while to go see him while he's in Chicago performing.
I would love that.
Yeah, you should. He's not performing the weekend of the show.
No,
but,
I don't start till the week after. I don't start rehearsal.
Yeah, there you go. Just make it a long trip.
That would be fantastic. I would love that. So there you go. Tenors Unite.
Absolutely.
You have to come up. That's right. United.
The other thing, since you're a Wisconsinner, I have gone. I'm from Chicago, and I lived there my whole life. But every summer we would skip Lollapalooza and go to Summerfest because Summerfest is probably the best music festival you can go to. And Josh had not gone yet. So do you have any recommendations for him?
Jeez. I mean, Summerfest. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He's got to go, right?
Summerfest is such a good time. What, 10 or 12 days? Man. 10 days long? I think it's 10 days long.
Yeah.
That's
and it's
amazing.
like $25 to get in for the full day. You have to pay a little bit extra for the fancier
for the
shows,
stage. But all the different side stages, everyone has performed there. It's just so good. Actually, it's funny that you say that too. That venue, excuse me, the amphitheater at Summerfest, it was my debut with Milwaukee Symphony, doing Beethoven's Ninth at German Fest. So yeah, that was a good time. That was awesome. A really good time. But yeah, it was that I saw In Excess there, Sting I saw twice, Depeche Mode twice. So many good bands, and they've got like 12 stages or something like that, and all those are free except for the main stage.
Yeah, except for the main one. Like amazing. I went for a day and I saw what's it called? I paid to see Stevie Wonder because of course you pay to see Stevie Wonder. But the rest of the shows was like Run DMC, Gnarls Barkley, just like really big names that you just walk up to and it's free.
Wow.
It's such a neat experience. Nothing like it that I've been to.
Definitely a good time.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, Zach, what's it called? It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. We look forward to seeing you in Chicago in August, and certainly look forward to checking you out on Heritage. You have a lot of big auctions coming up. Do you want to give a quick note to the big auctions coming up here so we can make sure people look forward to it?
I've got to pimp my favorite auction. So the Ancient Art Spotlight, 61375. That sells on May, not March. Wow, time flies. May 20th, I think, right? 20th is,
yep, 20th.
May 20th,
so that is the Ancient Art sale featuring coins with stars, fine style, silvering, all the positive attributes that you find on the NGC holders. Or just have phenomenal toning. So it's really what I think is the prettiest Ancients auction that we have all year long. It's one that I started last year. I'm super proud of it. We're holding it twice a year now. So if you have stuff that you want to consign to it, I think the next one is coming up in November. But it's definitely one that even if you don't buy anything, just treat yourself and go look at it. It's just a fun time. Yeah.
It's a great auction.
Definitely one to just great eye candy. Every coin you look at, you're just like, wow, that's delicious. And they're like, oh, wow, that's even more delicious.
And what's the website again, Zach, so we don't forget? Very easy to remember. Not as easy as coin.com or coin.com.
Ed Waddell, that was some forward thinking there.
He was
thinking in the year 3000. That's really smart.
Yep.
But anyway, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Zach. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Good luck with Heritage and your auctions coming up, and we look forward to participating and then seeing you in August.
All right, take care, you guys. It's been a pleasure.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned for the entire interview with Zach. I hope you enjoyed it. We will continue down this pathway of interviewing people that are important. So please stay tuned, like and subscribe as always. We're very passionate about this and we want to share it with you. So every time a new video gets released, you'll get that little ding and make sure you watch.
Absolutely.
With that being said,
hey Dean, before we conclude here, I wanted to ask you a question. On your coin that you shared this week, on the back, Hercules is holding a trophy. What is that in celebration of? Because I shared a coin a couple weeks ago with a trophy that was like showing its victory over the Dacians and the Parthians and whatnot. But so I wanted to know, what was this trophy in celebration of?
Well, so this would have happened not long after Julius Caesar's victory over Pompey in Pharsalus. And so, again, this is another good opportunity or good visual to remind you that not only is Julius Caesar, important, but he also beats the best, right? Pompey the Great, considered one of the great generals of all time. He is a winner, and you can get behind him. And that's exactly what his coin is telling you.
We should be getting behind these coins because they're winner coins. I can tell you that.
You got any words of wisdom for us, Josh?
Oh, well, to bounce off of that, invest in some of these coins because they're real big winners. Be a winner and buy a Republican coin of the transitional period.
That's right. Exactly. And if you want to learn more about them, always, and have Park Kim right in front of me, always look into this book.
Great book.
And then what's it called? Keep following us and listen in, and we will fill you in.
That we will.
But thank you so much for another great episode, Josh, and we will talk to you in the near future.
Thanks. All right, you.